I have something special for you today. This is a new translation of Sermon 111a. This is not one that you're going to find very easily in English translation, and it's one that has only been available even from the critical edition for a few years. Now, I want to talk about Meister Eckhart's rushing ahead, because this may be the key sermon for understanding that idea. This is the idea that I have argued is one of the most important in terms of what it is that Eckhart had to offer, and especially what he has to offer that speaks to people today, but is not really adequately emphasized by a lot of other scholars on Meister Eckhart, because it may not be something that people necessarily even recognize. The word itself doesn't look extraordinary. And so in this context, it is simply laufet vor. So it runs ahead, it rushes ahead. And the passage in question reads as follows. Knowledge rushes ahead and touches God, but yet it cannot be united with him unless it comes back and proclaims to love what it has seen and leads love to God. And love goes into God and brings with it the knowledge of the soul with all the powers and unites them with burning heat in God. Now, there are several very key elements of translation here and shades of meaning that clearly point to Eckhart being a Dominican, and then also it's very much Eckhart being Eckhart. So there's something beautiful here. Now, first of all, the primary sense that I want to draw out. When I talked about this before, I said that faith is a kind of beauty. This was something that I mentioned in Paradox at Play, so my 2023 book. And that's meant to be a kind of quotable remark, but it also has some depth to it in that it recalls Plato and Plato's use of beauty and Diotima's ladder and beauty as the vehicle to the divine and so on. And the idea is that faith is a kind of beauty because faith provides you a direction to go when you don't know where to go. So when you're in a Buridan's donkey sort of situation where you've got two equally appetizing bales of hay in front of you and they're just as far apart, there's no reason to prefer the one on the left to the one on the right, what do? And it can be hard for people to know where to go in spirituality. And this is what Eckhart tells us is the purpose of faith, that faith rushes ahead of reason. Now, the idea is that faith rushes ahead, but that ultimately experience will come to show us, and we're not going to need the faith anymore. That's not the normal story of faith that we get in modern institutionalized Christianity. However, that's also not the only version of rushing ahead that we get in Meister Eckhart. And so that's a very important dynamic. And what we see in Sermon 111 is that it works with the entire ladder in terms of the ontological hierarchy. In other words, when I pointed to Diotima and when I pointed to faith as a kind of beauty that leads us up, it doesn't just lead us all the way up to God. It can lead us through the lower stages as well, which really makes faith a kind of beauty, because you'll notice what this passage says is that knowledge, in this case, not faith, knowledge rushes ahead and touches God, but it can't be united with him unless it comes back and tells love what's going on and motivates love to go and seek God. So it says it leads love to God. And love goes into God and brings with it all the powers. So in other words, knowledge gets there first. This is why, he's a Dominican. So knowledge gets there first and gets a taste of God. In this case, it's not a taste, but it's touching God. And so knowledge touches God and sees this wonderful thing, but cannot complete the breaking through entirely on its own. It has to go back and collect love and the other powers of the mind. And so the higher and the lower powers. And so knowledge goes back and tells love what's going on and says, hey, by the way, God is amazing. You've got to, come see this. Here's the direction to go. And so knowledge leads love back to God in the same way that faith leads the mind toward God in the direction of God, when knowledge otherwise doesn't know where to go. And so in this case, it's love that doesn't know where to go, and knowledge touches God and then points love in the right direction. And we are told correspondingly, and this is just the rest of the sentence, this is one sentence, that love brings with it the knowledge of the soul with all the powers and unites them with the burning heat in God. And so all of the powers follow love. So the idea is that knowledge gets there first, but knowledge doesn't have control over everything else in the mind. Knowledge has to tell love about it, And then love can bring the rest of the mind with it. And so then everything that we are can proceed in the direction of God. But knowledge first rushes ahead so that it can pave the way and find the way to be able to vector the rest of the mind toward the divine. So I think that is a particularly crucial passage, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it for the first time, and I translated it for the first time after the critical edition came out just a few years ago, because it is such a confirmation of the same kind of dynamic that I had identified earlier with Meister Eckhart's rushing ahead in my discussion of what the purpose of faith is and how we should understand faith for Meister Eckhart. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope you found it good to think with.